Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome up the dual Olympic gold medalist, the world champion, and her rock star coach, ladies and gentlemen, Ariane Titmus and Dean Boxall.
Alrighty, there we go. What time did the alarm go off this morning, Arnie?
It went off at 5:49.
Why 5:49 and not 5:50?
So I'll tell you a bit of a story. My alarm used to go off at 5:43 because my coffee machine takes about 10 minutes to heat up in the morning. Right. Anyway, I got Dean a coffee machine on the weekend, and we got this lady from Breville to come over and show us how it works. And I never knew that I could set a setting to have it automatically turn on at like 5:30 in the morning. So now I can have like an extra 6 minutes sleep while it's already heating up, and I get down and I just press the button straight away.
Righto, I'm glad you can see all the plugs in there too for Breville and everything. You're getting used to this. I love it. I love this. Yes. Yeah, good. How many Ks did she... Oh, yeah, sorry, Shane. Yes?
In the winter, I set my alarm for 4:27 a.m.
4:27 a.m. There we go.
Beats me.
Yeah. No coffee machine, though. How many Ks did she do this morning, Dino?
She did 6, so she started at 3, and we worked up to 6 weeks to get her to 6K.
Yeah.
No complaining, but which is very good, Ben. In the beginning, I thought there was going to be a little bit of complaining. Being an Olympic champion or double Olympic champion, I thought I was going to cop it, but no, she's been very good.
Well, it doesn't sound like life's changed much then since what happened in July in Tokyo. What has been the coolest thing? And this is a question to both of you. What's been the coolest thing that has happened since you arrived home?
I would probably say, being Cup Day ambassador was amazing. I wish I could have gone to Melbourne to be at the races, but I'd say probably texting Michelle Payne for my Cup Day tip was pretty cool.
Really? Did she give you the right tip?
No, she didn't. I'd say, like, at home, we love to watch Gogglebox. We find it so funny. And I just found it cool, like, just talking to people that I watch on TV, and it's like, wow, they're talking to me. And so yesterday I was texting Adam from Gogglebox, Adam and Simon on Gogglebox. And so he said, when you're in Melbourne, we should catch up. I was like, this is so cool. Like,
I can imagine your contacts in your phone. Who's the most famous person you got in your contact list?
probably Dean.
Yeah. No.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. On cue.
What?
Oh, wow.
What? Besides people just bringing you wine randomly, Dino, how's life changed for you?
It's lemonade.
Pink lemonade. Yeah, right. What about you, mate? How's life changed? What's the coolest thing that's happened to you since you've been back?
It happened last week. Arnie was just ripping into me. I had the worst hair. Probably looking at it looks fantastic now. It's not. I had 20 Rastafarian knots at the back of my hair, and I went in to go and get a knot cut just to get the knots out. And this Colombian hairdresser was getting the knots out, no haircut. And while she was taking the knots out, she said to me, "Do you know, you look like that crazy lunatic coach that humped the railing." And I went, "Oh, he was an idiot." And I didn't tell her.
That's the coolest thing that's happened. Awesome. I'm going to get into that. I want to ask you about that, but we won't do that first. Dino just said he thought that you might have been a bit slow in coming back to training, and no one would begrudge you that. But the sacrifices that you... Actually, I'll just pull myself up because I know you pull me up when I talk about the sacrifices. They're not sacrifices you've made, are they? What's the word that you use?
So I always like to say, since I was little, that there are choices that you make. I make a choice to have the life that I have and not live like a normal person my age. So I like to think that I get to do cooler things. So, not so much sacrifices.
It's a good way to look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think...
Sacrifice has a negative connotation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Dino, when did you know you had a good one on your hands?
Look, Peter Gartrell is a magnificent coach. He's this... he was studying to be a doctor, so he knew so much about the cardiovascular system, and he coached Arnie for a couple of years when he was in Tasmania. And I met Arnie in 2015 at an Australian junior team camp we were going to the Commonwealth Games, the Youth Commonwealth Games, and Arnie basically was challenging the boys in this distance set, and it was a really difficult set, Ben, and all the boys were falling away. The girls had passed away, and sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to passed away. They just fell away. The boys were holding on, and then the boys were just dropping off, and she was just stoic and dogged, and she was holding on. So we kept challenging her, and she missed the last time by 0.1, and everyone else fell away. But the funny thing is, I knew that set, and I wasn't coaching Arnie at that time. I started coaching her a year later, and to that day, that set is given to her most Mondays because of that session, that I'll give that set to her, that she needs to succeed at that set, and we make it a little bit difficult, more challenging, just for motivation. That's been nearly 6 years, that same set, and I reckon that was part of the reason why she beat Katie.
There was a plan behind beating Katie too, and it was and actually, Arnie, can you explain to us mere mortals? I mean, a plan that is supposed to take 4 years took 5, where on a particular day, at this set time, you have to narrow down 4 years into 3 minutes, 56 seconds and get it right, because there's no do-overs.
Yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds a lot worse than what it really is. I think you have to start from way back. So I raced Katie for the first time, or I made my first long course Australian team in 2017 for the World Championships, and I got 4th in the 400. And at that point, I was trying to teach myself to go out hard in the races and try and get that part of the race down pat. And I was kind of falling away a bit, but it was also trying to, make the plan to be able to go out fast and hold on. So at the time, it probably looked like I was dying, but I think it was part of the plan to try and get the race plan right for at the Olympics, where I could go out faster and then still hold on. So, I mean, a lot of work goes into the plan. There's lots of different aspects. I was doing a talk earlier today about the different aspects in a part of the race, and there's things that we work on, like our turns, our dives, our stroke count, our breathing pattern, your kicking, all this type of stuff. So we had to really try and nail all of that. One thing that we really worked on for the past couple of years have been my turns. I was losing on Katie per turn in a 400, which is 7 turns, 0.4. So a turn is 5 in and 10 out off the wall. And I was losing 0.4 without even swimming, so 2.8 seconds over the 400. And at the Olympics, we ticked away at it over a few years. And at the Olympics, I ended up beating Katie in the turns. How much by? 0.0?
0.03.
0.03. And the last turn, I outturned her by 0.2. So it was like a 0.6 turnaround. So the turns were definitely a big part of the plan, to try and make up that time without even swimming any faster, really. But it's really hard to try and put all of this time and effort into one short answer, but that's kind of part of it. The turns were a big part.
I suppose I was probably biting off more than I could chew to say, tell me the last 4 years, nail it down to about 40 seconds. But Dino, the planning for you, and we all know that failing to plan is planning to fail, but planning for you started at the Pan Pacs, the Pan Pacific Games in Tokyo, wasn't it? 2018. And I understand the company we're in, but effectively you stalked Katie Ledecky, didn't you?
In a good way, ladies. In a good way. I did. She knew Arnie probably as a challenger, but nothing that was going to be serious at that stage, because she was 3:56.4 and Arnie at that stage was 4 minutes 0.9. So when we were there, Katie wasn't there with a coach. So what I did, and I've got video footage of this, and I've always held on to it. I followed Katie when she got on the bus. I sat behind her. Stalking. I followed. She didn't have the coach. I watched her on her warm-up. I then sat next to her, right next to the team. Australia was next to United States at that stage, and how she did her video analysis. I went and sat with my American friends where she was at the table to see what she was eating for breakfast, lunch and dinner. I just wanted to watch what this girl was doing. Now, we didn't believe that we could win at that stage, Ben. We were just there to learn and really put the challenge out to Katie to see what it was like. But I wanted to see what she was like, Katie. So I stalked her in a very good way.
Did you know this was going on?
So I knew it a little bit. He used to use it to like kind of have a dig, like, Katie was watching her race back right after her race. Like, were you doing that? Like that type of thing. So it was kind of using it for motivation a little bit.
How much did you get from it, and how much? I mean, how big a part of the plan was that? The intel you picked up.
I might just jump ahead here, Ben. I'm sorry, and I don't want to bore people. And I hope that everybody here has watched that race, but I probably might stand up and get a little bit excited with this a little bit.
Do we need to take cover?
Yeah, there's no railing. This is the plan, right? And I'm going to try and share that. Not a lot of people understand what happened with the plan. So when they saw me going off, it was because of this magnificent girl here executed the race, what we were trying for 2 years, right? So after 2018, Arnie's prepping in for 2019. She beats Katie in 2009, the World Swimming Championships. Now, this might hurt Steve and Robin because I do believe Katie was sick. All right, we got information that she wasn't sick, that she was actually hurt, that Arnie beat her. But it wasn't right. She came back in 31.2 seconds. Arnie came home really well, but Katie's best time coming back the last 50 was 28.8. I knew something wasn't right. So what I did was I got my team around us and I said, I want every swim of Katie on video, and I want every swim that she's done a 400 freestyle after 2012, and I want to work out a pattern. So there was 60 400 metres freestyles that I had video and I had analysis. Now, I didn't bestow this on Arnie. Later, I said stuff. But that was for me, being me. So I had to try and work out a pattern of how she was going to swim after 2019. And it's very obvious how the girl was going to swim because of the next 4 races that she did was going to determine what she did in training, what she was going to do in the race. And then I had an individual, a swimmer, I won't name his name. He actually went to Stanford where Katie was training, and I was best mates with the coach. And I said, give me everything about Katie. I want all information.
Sporting espionage.
Yes,
I love it.
yes, spying.
There is
they
a
call
movie
it.
in this. Yeah.
Stalking, spying, all of it. Brian, all of it. And so I was getting all information, right? And then I had coaches that I knew, that Greg Mean, which was her coach, he was giving lectures. And I said, every time that you hear her talk about Katie, I want you in real time just texting me. I was getting texts at 4:30, 3 o'clock, 1:30 about Katie. Arnie didn't know this. This was me. Right? I was living it, right? So I worked out a pattern after 60 swims that Katie was going to go hard the first 200. She wasn't going to change that. She was an alpha female. However, the information that came back to me, and I don't want to bore everybody, she said, not in those words, I changed it, that her turn-in was dog shit. And her 750 is very poor, And I knew that they were going to target. So when I got given that information, I told Arnie straight away. I said, they're targeting your 750 and they know that you got weak turns and we have to fix it. So a year turned into 2, so it helped us. And people out there that don't like getting critique, you're not coachable. So I'm going to be a bit hard here. She is coachable. Incredibly coachable. Her turns weren't good enough. 0.4, 2.8, you're going to get slaughtered. We had to fix it. So the race plan, was the last 150 metres at Tokyo. We had to make the target on Katie because I said she's going to go out hard. I said that she'll be out between 157.1 and 157.4. She went out on 157.4. I wanted Arnie out between 156.8 and 157.3, just to be that little bit in front. Arnie didn't want that. She wanted to be a little bit further behind, but she looked awesome in the race. So here I want to give you the data. First 50, it's an 850 battle. It's an actual boxing fight. Arnie goes and turns first by 0.13. Katie then goes 0.17 faster, so she's leading by now, 0.04. Katie then gives a good uppercut to Arnie and gives 0.4 on it. The next 50, she takes out Arnie again by 0.2. So I'm watching the splits. Arnie's looking good. I'm watching the split. I go, we've got to stop this bleeding. I know the 150 were coming up, but we've got to stop this bleeding. The next 50, which is now coming up to around the 250 metre mark, it is 0-0. No one won that 50. And that's when I got a little bit excited. I could see it slipping and changing. And now Arnie just gives this humongous uppercut. You can see blood coming from Katie's nose. 0.5 victory. The next 50, which is the 750, which I know that they were targeting, and the turns, Arnie takes her out by 0.38. Now we're leading. By the last 50, she turns in. And as Arnie would know, I said to her, you have to turn in faster than Katie to get at the wall because she's going to work her underwaters. And the last 50, Katie has just been slaughtered, Arnie on the turn by 0.4. This girl has been slaughtered and turned it around and beat Katie in the last turn by 0.2. That's a 0.6 turnaround. And we got her by 0.4 and we just smashed her, took her and just kicked her. She's going to say I'm hogging the limelight here like the celebration, but...
Is that how you remember it? The uppercuts and the bleeding underwater and the...
No, I honestly can't remember much of the race. All I remember was on the 200, I remember turning, and at the finish end, when we turned, we faced each other. So I turned onto my right, I think, and she faced the other way. So we'd turn together and see each other. And I remember at the 200 thinking like, oh, geez, like I'm a little bit behind here, but I never thought that I couldn't win. I remember pushing off for the 5th lap and thinking like, right, like kick a bit better, like put your head down. And then coming back, we breathed away from each other, so we couldn't see each other. And I remember coming into the 300 turn, and we turned together, and I was like, oh, like shit, I'm actually like next to her. Like, you know, I didn't know I'd made that much up in 100. And then pretty much I think at that, the adrenaline kind of takes over. The 400, the last 50 of the 400, it's like the most unreal feeling. It's so hard to describe. But I just kind of I told Dean, I get like these jets out my ass. And like, the adrenaline just takes over knowing that where you are, you turn the wall first, you know, you kind of like, you become overcome with this amount of adrenaline and you kind of just find something extra for the wall. And when I hit, it was just kind of like relief, really. And honestly, like as soon as I got out of the water, I was like, come on, like, hurry, I got to get in the warm-down pool. I have the 200 tonight. Like, I was just worried about the next race. But, no, we were very happy to get the 400 done and dusted.
Amazing, isn't it? Could you see what was going on in the stands? I mean, how could you not hear it?
No, well, Dean was actually standing very high up. And if you ever go to an Olympic stadium, the stands are quite high. You don't see any of the crowd when you're swimming. And I was off social media. I wasn't looking at anything that people were saying. But I remember after the 400, I came back from the medal ceremony and I was getting on the massage table. And the team manager came up to me and she was like, look, I know you're not looking at anything, but I have to show you this. Like, Dean's literally gone viral. And I was like, oh, nah. And I watched it and it was like so funny. I went back to my room and I didn't re-download anything, but I was just like Googling Dean Boxall and seeing all the memes that were coming up. So that's how I prepared myself for my 200.
Get some sleep. You've got the 200. I'm almost going to put my notes away because I reckon you've answered about 5 of my questions there, Dino. So, but let's go back though. So, you mentioned about the turns being, in your words, dog shit. Dino's got 2 standards, hasn't he? What are his standards?
Oh God, I'm going to get killed. Please, to all the ladies out there, I'm a nice guy.
What's his standards?
So Dean always says that if a swimmer comes to him and they say, look, I want to win national age, or I want to make the Olympic team, or I want to go to the World Championships, you have to stick to your word and do that work. There's no point saying it if you're not prepared to do the work. So Dean and I had said, look, I want to become Olympic champion, and it just happened to be that in my event, I have to try and beat the greatest of all time, female swimmers, and that's just the luck of the draw, right? So we had to have 2 standards to make it training just at the highest, most possible level. And so our standards were outstanding, which would be very rare. Like it'd be if I completely nailed everything, which was happening more as I was getting closer to the Olympics. But in the middle of the year, it happens like never. And then the other end of the spectrum is, well, the two standards, dog shit. And we have this story. In 2019, when I became world champion, Dean didn't want me to become complacent. So, well, okay, if you can tell it better. Okay, you go.
Actually, no, I want to hear your version than your version. Yeah.
So,
It just sounds terrible.
so I hadn't really seen Dean after the race. Once you finish at an international meet, you've got to go through, you try and warm down as quickly as you can. You've got to have drug testing. You have to go and do a press conference. It all takes a bit of time. And so I hadn't seen Dean. I was just being kind of waltzed around by people that were taking me places. So I was in the press conference. I was in the media room, and there was, a bunch of journalists, and I was doing a press conference. And I don't know this, Dean will probably want to explain it from his side, but I remember I was just answering questions away, like people asking about the race, and Dean pops into the room, and he goes and stands right at the back, and I remember seeing him, and I was like, oh, there's Dean. And he starts mouthing, dog shit, because in the race plan, there was a few things I didn't do right in the race. So it wasn't...
No, it's not.
You've just taken down the best of all time.
no.
Katie Ledecky, world champion.
That's not right, Brian. You understand, Brian? Yes, I thought she swam better at trials, but I didn't want her to be complacent and think that she beat the GOAT, that she was made it, because she was going to go back to the drawing board and go ruthless at Arnie. So I needed Arnie to understand that it wasn't what we wanted to achieve. You didn't hit what it needed, and our standards are higher than that, even though you are world champion. But she looked at me, and I was behind that camera. It was massive, the crowd, and she looked at me and she nodded. She understood, right? And then she came back and understood. And I had all the data. You've got to remember, I'm having sleepless nights, getting messages at 1:30, 3 o'clock about what Katie's doing, and Tracy would know, one of the GOATs here, Tracy Stockwell, and she represented America's, got multiple gold medals, and she knew what Katie was all about, so I had to try and make sure that she was going to be better than that, because Katie was coming back harder. Not really dog shit, just lower.
So after that dog shit swim and you're world champion, you're now the hunted rather than the hunter, especially going into Tokyo. And we all remember the day the games were postponed and we came down to St. Peter's and understandably you were in tears, but then you had to regather, regroup. And I think that day, Dino, you told me that for every week you're out of the water, it puts you 2 weeks behind. Is that the...
Yeah, well, Arnie's out 9 weeks. She's got 18 weeks to go.
Yeah,
like
okay. So in saying that, COVID, and I'm sure COVID wasn't part of the plan. What do you do during COVID? How do you train as a swimmer when you can't get into a pool?
Well, okay, I'll explain something to you. And this is not big known. I'm not trying to be arrogant, but... we found a pool. It was 25 metres. It was heated during COVID. And as I said, I had spies in Stanford. And Katie was training with a girl called Simone Manuel, who was the Olympic champion for 100 metres freestyle in 2016. And they were training together. So I knew that would be our competitive environment. We didn't have that. So I found a pool that was heated, 25-metre pool. Our next door neighbour, hello, John Gambaro. It wasn't John, it's another person. And I don't want to give his name, I don't want to get in trouble, because it was COVID and Kate Jones was the minister around about during that time. Right. So, no names. And we were every morning, I was given the code, they made sure the pool was 28 degrees, and we were training, right? But Arnie was by herself. So I thought, how am I going to provide her this competitive environment? No, that Katie is competitive with Simone. So it had to be me. So I got in the water on the last K, and we always did sprints, and I would race Arnie. And it'd just get more, and it'd get more, and it'd get more, to the point where I was going to bed earlier. I was getting up to stretch to make sure that I was being competitive, and she did not win one sprint. Did not win one sprint, and you can ask her, and the reason why I did it was to make sure that she still had that competitive environment. It could have gone on for 6 months. It could have gone on for 9 months. It went on for 3 for us in that pool, 3 months. But if we missed that, I really believe thoroughly that we missed an opportunity where she had another opportunity. So I had to be that environment for her, because when she gets back to St. Peter's and we start moving, we have in a competitive environment. We have a lot of really good swimmers that I place next to Arnie to keep her motivated and keep her moving forward. But that 3 months had to be me. So I had to be on my game. And she did not win one race.
How many K had you done before he jumps in the pool?
What, 5?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Arnie, I know you've got to get to training, so I'll be brief on these.
We can be a little bit late.
Oh, actually, the coach
a
is
little bit
here.
late.
What
I'm
if
the
you're
coach. You're a
late?
little bit late.
Yeah, okay.
She's got a very easy session this afternoon.
It's raining. You might get wet. Yeah. Lightning in the pool. Yeah, you can't go in. Yeah. Did you said, I have to go and do the 200. I have to warm down. So you've won the 4, which was the heavyweight title, but then winning the 2. I mean, did you know what you were achieving, and the fact that Shane was the last to do the 2-4 double? Did you know what you were?
No, I mean, I'm not really someone that goes out to break records or me a stats person or try and do those types of things. I'm purely doing it for myself and my coach and my family. I swim because I love it, and I just happen to be in have a great opportunity. And so for me, I was, just going into the 200 thinking it was another 200, and I had no idea until people started mentioning, you, Susie and Shane are the only 3 girls to win the 200 and for Australia. And I didn't think about all of this until after the Olympics. I was so focused. I mean, one thing that Dean and I were worried about was going into the Olympics with everything with COVID. I can sometimes, he calls me a kite in the wind. I can sometimes, my mind can wander a little bit. I can get distracted by external things. I don't know, I kind of freak out, get a little bit of anxiety if something's wrong. And so with all of COVID, he was worried that if COVID got in the village, that I would be, worried and not, focused on what I'm there for. But something just kind of happened, and it was just like automatic for me to wear my mask, wake up every morning, do my spit test, drop it off, and I completely forgot that COVID was really a thing. I think the swimming just kind of overtook. I was so busy that I was just so focused on what I was there to do, wasn't even thinking about what I was really winning. I was just trying to do the best races that I could and try to conserve as much emotional energy as possible, because, I'll give you an example. I'd race the 4x2 relay in the morning, and we won a medal, so we got drug tested and had a press conference, and then you have to warm down, and I'd probably get massage after. Then you got to wait for the bus, half an hour bus ride back. You got to walk back to the village. I had 45 minutes in my room where I had to walk back to the bus and go and race my 800 freestyle heat. And so it was like this constantly. So it was just so physically draining that you had to conserve everything you could mentally. So that's why with the 400, I was so just trying to not celebrate and just conserve all the emotions to make sure I could make it through the whole week, because I didn't want to blow the whole week by celebrating too hard on the first event. So that's why that kind of happened.
Have you got to celebrate now, or how did you celebrate? Because you were over in Tokyo and it was locked down, or not locked down, but you were in the village, couldn't do much. Then you've come back to Howard Springs, beautiful Howard Springs. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Howard Springs for 2 weeks. Do you celebrate? Can you celebrate in quarantine? Or?
I mean, I found quarantine really hard. Some people, I think, enjoyed the downtime, but it wasn't much downtime for me. I mean, our media manager would send out the schedule for the next day,
schedule. You're in lockdown. You can't do anything. You can't
no,
get out
but
of your room.
media schedule, and I had 5 hours like every day of podcasts and radio and Zooms, and so I pretty much had gone straight from like the highest moment of my life into this like school camp doing media, and it pretty much didn't give me much chance to just kind of reflect and think about what I've achieved. I mean, I think going back to my hometown in Tassie was the first time that I'd really felt what an impact I had made, or really like kind of realised what I had achieved. But I still think that Dean and I don't really understand. Like, I still feel very normal. I don't feel any different really, but I think that's a good thing. But
Except you can text Michelle Payne to get Melbourne Cup tips. I mean, that's pretty cool.
But we haven't really like celebrated that much. I had a good break from swimming, but we really haven't, celebrated that much.
Have you celebrated, Dina?
No, not at all, actually. No. No, it's really bizarre. I cannot believe the feeling. Julie McDonald actually asked me, have you come down? I never came back up. It's strange. It really is strange. We finished the Olympics. It was like 9 days. It's 9 days. And I know I talk a bit about military and war, but it's like a war against other nations. And when Arnie won the 400, she had to get ready 6 hours of 200. She had about 50 minutes rest, and she was the favourite to win the 200. Then she has a rest, the 4x2. The 800, if there was a camera on us two in the training pool, oh, wow, you ain't got training. There's a storm. There's a storm. I was talking to Arnie. I would have sat for 1 hour. It was 1 hour. She was sitting down. It was just her and I. She was exhausted. I got a text message, and this is going to give you guys information. I'm happy. I've told Steve and Ariane Titmus, and I'm happy to share this with you guys here. I got a text message from Ian Thorpe going, "How's the girl?" And I said, "Exhausted. I need your help. Get on to the TV's Channel 7 with you, Benny." And I said, start to change the rhetoric to the public about this 800, because they're all thinking, can you get Katie? Can you get Katie? And we were never thinking that. So he got up and he changed it. He said, you would be exhausted, you'd be emotionally drained. You know, this is the most challenging event she's ever been through. And then he basically told about how he was feeling. And Arnie was done, absolutely done. For 1 hour, I said 30,000 words, she said 6. And I just started talking to her about all her training sets, all the things she's achieved, the things that we failed in, why we're here, and how we've succeeded through the years. And she started just to build to get ready. And that was probably the moment after the 800 freestyle when no one saw, this is my celebration with Arnie. She came around the back, I was waiting for, there's no cameras, and she fell into my arms. Just cried, just dropped, we both cried. It was over. It was done. And the next day we were on a chartered flight, no alcohol, straight into a red line, into a prison camp.
Well, the physio next to me, Pete, I'll tell you something, he was like strict on the rules. Like, I would kind of bend them a little bit. Like, if we were watching a movie with someone, we put the laptop in the middle and both lay on either side of our line, right? Pete, my physio, our deck was 3 meters long. He would do every morning, every night, half an hour of walking, 5 step forwards, 5 step back, twice a day. He was doing like 10K of walking in 3 meters square. This is what it was like. Like, they were so strict, and I found it really hard. I had a meltdown on day 8. I was ready to run. But no, at least we had our teammates around us, but it definitely made it hard to kind of reflect on the Olympics.
What now? You've seen the view from Everest. What do you... How do you keep going? What's the next challenge?
Well, I'd like to think that I definitely still have more in me in the sport. I guess I've achieved most things you can in swimming, but one thing that I haven't is I hold the 400 freestyle short course world record, but I would love to break a world record long course. I've done it in a relay, but it's a different thing, I believe, individually. So I would love to do that. So that's going to keep me on my toes. Next year is a very busy year. We have Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, so that will be a big year. We also have World Championships, so we have to figure out whether we're going to do the whole thing or just target one meet. But we want to make sure that we make the right decision so that in Paris I'm ready to be at my best and go again.
Do you have to come up with new strategies? Yeah, it's actually, yeah, clap that. Is it a whole new sleepless 4 years for you then, Dino? Or
Because Katie's left her coach, so I don't have the spies anymore. She's actually left and gone because Arnie, and I'm not Tracy. Tracy can help. She's left to go to Florida to train with men, so she wants to train with lions to beat. She wants to train with lions to beat Arnie because of what took place. So I've got to try and find a spy there.
Tracy's putting her hand up. Yeah.
Tracy, yeah. But I had a really good conversation with Shane Gaudet. There has not been take away Dawn, but there hasn't been a female individual Olympic gold athlete that has done it again at the next Olympics in Australia. Now, there has to be a reason there, Arnie. There has to be a reason. I've spoken to Arnie about this. Now, this is the legacy. This is what we need to try and do. It's because I believe we put on a huge pedestal here by the media, Benny, by the media. And, we're
Guilty as
pumped up.
charged.
We have a lot of things to do. Like Arnie has done so much stuff after, but we've planned that. Where others haven't planned that. They've just basically been ad hoc. She's had 9 weeks, and Arnie, you go and do what you need to do. But now there's ones that are chasing. There's a girl called Summer McIntosh who was in the final. She got fourth, went 4:02 at 15 years old. Arnie was 4:12. She went 4:02. She went 1:55.7. At that stage at 15, Arnie? 2:01. So this girl is looking, and this coach, Ben, is a lunatic like me. And I know that he's researching Arnie and he's doing the same thing. So I'm having that feeling now that I've got to try and find a way. It's Katie and Summer at the moment. If she wants that legacy, she has to go to that same place. She has to be ruthless. She has to just be Ariane Titmus, the professional athlete. And I believe in her. And I believe.
I think we do too after that. How can you not? I mentioned at the beginning of this, and I'm trying to think how to weave it in. Mum's 80s playlist. What was the song at the top of that, and how did you discover it, and how did it get you through?
So, Mum has one playlist. People on Spotify sometimes might have Dean has cruisy, sad, suffering. Mum, her playlist is full bipolar. It will go from Guns N' Roses to Adele, Shawn Mendes, AC/DC. So I never really listened to Mum's music outside of swimming, but there's a few songs on there that really kind of get me, wound up, and I like having it, nice and loud in my ears before I swim. I'll skip the quiet ones, but I'd say probably one that was most played was Danger Zone.
Actually, I asked you about that because in an interview, and you said, yeah, Danger Zone. I said, oh, Top Gun. Yeah. And you just looked at me and went, yeah. Had no idea what I was talking about. That's scary, isn't it, Dino? Yeah. Have you seen it yet? No. Tom Cruise, Planes. No. Cool. Greatest movie ever. Anyway, move on. Yeah. So, Danger Zone, right.
Yeah, but that was a full mix. But I like it because it kind of feels like Mum is kind of there too as well. Even if Mum and Dad could have come to the Olympics, I wouldn't have seen them anyway. You don't get time to really go and see your family or talk to them. Or sometimes it's actually a bad thing because they're all yeah, but you want to be chilled and not worried about it. So I like listening to the music because it also kind of feels like Mum is with me as well.
I spent 10 days with them in Noosa and they weren't chill and they were doing, yeah, don't worry about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Robin and Steve Titmus as well, and Arnie and Dean Boxall.
Thank you.